But hold on a second. Just going to set something up. Does this work sideways? No, it's going to be this way. Okay. So we're going to do a little quick one this week. It's not going to be look at the Torah. This week we're going to finish here. Just going to do quickly the Sicha out of the Gutnik Chumash on the name of the Parsha, and then we'll jump to the Haftarah. So here we go. This week's Parsha is Devarim, the first of the fifth book of the 5 books of Moshe, the Torah. Okay, so Devarim, Elu Devarim, these things. So look at these are words that might be exclaimed upon encountering something new or different. Thus, the opening phrase of our Parsha, these are the words which Moshe spoke to all the Jewish people, comes to teach us that words of Torah should always be looked upon as something new and exciting. As our sages said, they should be new in your eyes every day. So look at these. Check these out. Check them. However, to change the way we think and act to the extent that we have genuinely adopted a new approach is no less than a miracle. We do this every year. Same Parsha every year, year after year, decade after decade. It's not so easy. So if the definition of a miracle is an unprecedented change in nature, then a totally fresh outlook to Torah and divine service also represents an unprecedented change in our nature. Personal miracle. A miracle that I'm able to view everything with new eyes repeatedly. In order to help us perform this wonder on a daily basis, Hashem gave us the gift of sleep, which brings up and this isn't a desicha, but it's a very interesting thing. You actually look up, there's a whole study, if you will, as to why is sleep necessary? Why do I need to sleep? The science of sleep. And as someone who struggles with their sleep, with insomnia and narcolepsy, it's sleep to me it's fascinating. It's the brain recharging. It's renewal. And as we know spiritually, the neshama leaves a bit. Sleep is it's a fraction of death. It's like the soul, the parts of the body, as is known, depending on what we thought about during the day and how we engage during the day, the soul is able to then go to different areas of heaven and learn and recharge and learn Torah and absorb that light and bring it back into our body for the next day.
Can you hear me?
Hey, Ira, how are you? I can hear you, but I don't see you.
Yeah, well, I was wondering. I just got this notification, and then it asked me a bunch of questions, and I thought it was some kind of a bogus thing that was a copycat. And now I see it's you. I'm glad to. So where are you?
I thought I'm live streaming on YouTube right now. I thought I mentioned this to you. Yeah, every Sunday night I do a class at 8:30, Insights on the Parsha. So sometimes we learn a Maimer from the Alter Rebbe. Right now we're just doing some sichas, and nobody else showed up in person, so doing it online. So whoever watches online is the audience.
Yeah, put me on the schedule. I had that. Yeah, right. Okay. Can you see me?
I can't see you. It's totally dark.
Well, how come you can't see me?
I don't know. It's pitch black.
Hold on a second, Alexa.
Turn I see
a light bulb.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. Whoa!
Look at that gorgeous face.
Yeah, right.
No
wonder you couldn't see me. I couldn't see myself.
There you go.
So okay, great.
So speaking of seeing ourselves, self-reflection. How do we have this miracle that it's brand new?
I wanted to say one quick thing about death. I thought that I learned years ago that sleep is like 1/60th of death.
Right, exactly. So is that a fraction of death? It's 1/60th. Right, that's from the Talmud, from the Gemara.
All right.
Yeah. So, and it's one of the reasons why it's so important to wash nagavasser in the morning. One is because we may have touched a part of our body that's usually covered, which anytime during the day, whenever we do that, you're supposed to wash nagavasser. But also because, when our soul leaves, the tumah of death comes onto the body.
I thought it leads to our fingertips.
So it leads to our fingertips, except the problem is we have these fingernails that stop it from completely leaving, which is why we wash the whole hand, but we're extra careful, especially the fingertips, where the fingernails are, which is why during the 9 days, which are coming up, especially on Tisha B'Av, where you're not supposed to really wash yourself and anoint yourself, you're still careful to wash the fingertips and the nails, even, past the knuckles, right?
Right.
Which that's coming up, which maybe we'll all discuss after we do the sichas. Maybe I'll quickly go over some of the rules that are coming up for the 9 days, because that's this week. That start Tuesday night on Rosh Chodesh. But anyway, so yeah, it's this sleep though. It's not just a dark thing. It's kind of a wonder, why do we have to sleep? But it gives this amazing thing that there's this renewal that we get to have.
Right.
We get to have this that at first glance, sleep appears to be, it's a waste of time. How much time every day, every 24-hour period that I'm wasting on sleep? Such a waste. What's the purpose? What purpose of creation? I'm put in this world to do, and I spend more than half my time not doing and to sleep and, half dead. So why did God charge us with a mission to improve and perfect the world, only to seemingly handicap us with the need to spend a significant portion of each day out of action? In truth, however, Hashem made us need to sleep for a positive reason. For after a night's sleep, we feel like a new person who was able to break free from the limitations of yesterday. So since God wanted the words which Moshe spoke to all the Jewish people, opening of this week's Parsha, to be new in your eyes every day, Eila Devarim, these words, these things, he built into us a mechanism which makes the miracle of changing our nature just that much easier. So much easier that we have this thing. We can, okay, tomorrow's a brand new day. I mean, how many times in life, if we're going through something difficult, we can say, but, what just happened? Hello? Oh, I think there was a bit of a glitch on my end. Yeah, hello? There we are. Sorry, the glitch, I think, on my end.
No problem.
I think it was on my end. But anyway, so
is it just you and me? No one else is on Zoom?
For now, it's just you and me on YouTube, but we'll see. Who knows who's going to watch it later. But anyway, so what was I saying? Yeah, so it's the opportunity to renew. Just like, many times we have a difficult day, we could say, well, today sucked, but tomorrow's a brand new day. I got a new start tomorrow. That doesn't happen without having that divider that is sleep. If life is continuous, you don't really have that opportunity to just say, okay, restart, start again. It's as those people who are struggling with different addictions know very well, it's something very empowering to be able to count the days, to say, I'm 1 day sober, I'm 3 days sober, I'm 3 weeks sober, but every day, and just, just today. I'm not trying to be sober for the next 40 years. I'm just trying to be sober today. Just 1 day. Can I go 1 day without smoking, drinking, whatever it is, indulging in
a diet?
Yeah, whatever
it becomes
sort of
the way of life.
And not to minimize, God forbid, anyone who's struggling with addiction, but in whatever ways we can relate to that, whatever our own personal addictions are, and the things that we can't seem to let go, we can take control of that, of whatever they are, and say, no, I can do this. I can go 1 day without it. I mean, how pathetic would it be if I can't go 1 day? I can do this, just 1 day, just get through it. And then the next day starts, and it's just 1 day where I don't murder everybody I see.
Minute by minute sometimes.
So minute by minute. But what's interesting is that's harder to do because you're still very much experiencing the previous minute. But absolutely, as there's a concept that Chassidus talks about a lot, and you hear this maybe by a lot of Fabrangians, a pnimi, someone who's internal. But what that means is internally focused on the moments we live in, and someone who's so focused right now, where I find myself in this moment is what matters.
Well, I'll tell you something that I learned a long time ago, like 30 years ago, from a book, Gateway to Happiness, by Rabbi Zelig Pliskin. You ever see that book?
It sounds familiar, but I can't say that.
It's self-help. But anyway, I'll tell you what, and I never read it from cover to cover, but I picked and chose. But what I want to share with you, which I've shared with so many people, that in times of their anxiety level and all kind of things that's shooting off into outer space, I said, here's the way it is. I told them I learned that life is a series of moments all strung together. So I found out for myself that if I try to focus on living in the present moment, and it's a daily thing with me, that I'm so much happier, because you can't live in the past. You can reminisce, but you just can't live in the past. And you can plan for the future, but you can't anticipate anything good, bad, or indifferent in the future, because you'll make yourself crazy. Especially, for example, when I was caregiving for my parents, you cannot anticipate anybody's death, even if it looks quote unquote like they're on their deathbed. You can't anticipate what's going to be next week or next month or after they're gone. So I just to share that, by living in the present moment, really, for me, on a daily basis, that's just my steady diet that I use, and it works, because we're human beings, and if we don't do that, you'll feel more in control. Not that we're in control because Hashem is, but you'll feel better. When I say you, I mean you in general. And I really stress this to people: just live in the present moment, because if you don't live in the present moment, you're losing out.
Well, I
You
think it's
really are.
what you said about control, I think highlights the point, is that there are the things that we are in control of and the things that we are not. And I think that's where we can sometimes get lost in trying to control the things that we can't. And that's again one of the mantras that they say in AA, try accept the things, that I can't control,
Right.
and trying to focus though on the things that I
That was
can.
Rabbi Tversky, by the way, that I came up with the 7 steps.
Oh,
You know that?
he's brilliant. But again, that exact point of being in control of the things that I can. There are things we can control. Our perspective, our focus. I'm focusing on right now in
Right.
this moment. Yes, I have a choice. I can react to whatever is going on in this moment in one of a myriad of ways. So it's how do I react? So beautifully said. Okay, so now let's move on to the Haftorah. So that was on the name of the Parsha Devarim. The Haftorah is one of the series of the Haftorahs of comfort.
Are you recording this live?
This is live and it is being recorded on YouTube, correct?
Oh, beautiful. Thanks.
Live streamed and being recorded on YouTube. So the Haftorah is comes from Yeshaya, otherwise known as Isaiah, one of the visions of Yeshaya, son of Amitz, right at the beginning of the book of Yeshaya. And it's the third of the 3 Haftorahs of punishment that are read between the 17th of Tammuz and the 9th of Av. And then afterwards, we'll get into the ones of comfort. Excuse me, I misspoke before. But right now, it's the third of the basically retribution, punishment. The Haftarah is taken from the opening of the book of Yeshaya, though it's not clear that that's necessarily was his first prophecy, but it's the first that's written in the book attributed to him in his name and his prophecies and whatnot. At first glance, the harsh tone of Yeshaya's words, the most condemning of all the 3 Haftarahs of punishment, is difficult to understand in the light of the Talmud statement that, as it says in Bava Basra, Yeshaya speaks entirely of consolation. So how could you say that when this seems to be pretty harsh, pretty stark averter over here? So the Marsha answers, this is not meant literally. The entire book of Yeshaya is consolation, as we find many prophecies of destruction there. Rather, the overwhelming majority of the book is consolatory. However, according to the Kabbalistic teachings, Talmud's statement could in fact be taken literally. Kehilas Yaakov writes that Yeshaya did not speak words of pure gevura, which is harshness or judgment, but rather chesed shebegvura, sweetening that judgment. And this spiritually empowered the Jewish people to bring the redemption, which will come through sweetening the judgments of exile. Therefore, it could truly be said that Yeshaya speaks entirely of consolation, for even his words of criticism are charged and sweetened with redemptive undercurrents. And that comes from the Rebbe. You can find a Sikh Rebbe in Likutei volume 18.
Quick question. You sent me through WhatsApp. Is it the same Zoom as we're always on?
Nope. This is YouTube. This is not Zoom.
The reason why I wanted to switch over to my iPad And do I have? Let me see if I have WhatsApp on my iPad.
Well, that's only going to be going on for a couple more minutes because my battery is low on my phone.
Oh, okay. I was going to switch
But
over to my
in the meantime,
iPad.
you can go ahead and look for that. I'm gonna keep going.
Go ahead.
So after the Haftorah's opening words, just to give a little summation of the Haftorah, and then we'll a little bit of commentary on a few different of the psukim from the Haftorah. The opening words, which introduce Yeshaya as a prophet, he then laments the sinfulness and rebelliousness of the Jewish people and their consequent punishments. He rebukes them for insincere confession, which when bringing sacrifices, because Hashem desires ethical behavior and repentance. In his final lament, the prophet grieves over the corrupt state of Yerushalayim and envisions a future time of restoration. Now, right, it starts off, Chazon Yeshayahu. This Shabbos, when this Haftarah is read, is commonly known as Shabbos Chazon, the Shabbos of prophetic vision, after the opening words of the Haftarah. And Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev taught a further significance to this term, that on this day, everybody is shown a distant vision of the future temple. And even though most people do not claim to actually see this vision, it is nevertheless is felt by the more sublime subconscious levels of each person's soul, which subsequently influence a conscious mind. Rav Levi Yitzchak explained the purpose of his vision with a parable. A father had a valuable garment made for his son. The son was irresponsible, and soon the garment was ripped to shreds. So the father had a second garment made for his son, but the son also allowed it to be ripped. When the father prepared a third garment, he did not give it to his son to wear, but instead he showed it to him from time to time, telling him that if he would behave himself, the garment would be his to wear. Likewise, the vision which we experience at Shabbos Chazon is intended to arouse a desire for the third Beis HaMikdash to be built, a feeling which will inevitably lead a person to be more careful in the observance of mitzvahs. And you can see that in detail from a Sikha from Shabbos Parsha Devarim in the year 5749, especially in note 3 over there. Okay, now the next pasuk, there's a later pasuk that says Shimu. The next pasuk, pasuk Beis, Shimu Shamayim va'azinu aretz. Hear, O heavens, and listen, O earth. Moshe used the opposite expression to Yeshaya. Instead of saying, Hear, O heavens, and listen, O earth, he declared in Devarim, chapter 32, verse 1, Listen, O heavens, and let the earth hear. So instead of hear, heavens, listen, earth, he said, Listen, heavens, earth, hear. The Midrash explains there's a significance to that. The Moshe was close to the heavens, so he told them to listen, a term which suggests a closeness between speaker and listener. But since he was distant from the earth, he told it to hear, quote, quote, from afar. Yeshaya, however, told the earth to listen since he was closer to the earth and more distant from the heavens. That comes from the Sifri. The Rebbe adds in volume 2 of the Likutei Sichos, being closer to the heavens, Moshe was able to take the Torah from its supernal source and act as a channel for it to be brought down below. Yeshaya, on the other hand, worked in the opposite direction. Being closer to earth, he was able to address the real issues in people's lives, lifting them out of their difficulties so as to progress to a higher spiritual level. So both prophets aimed to spiritualize, but Moshe delivered spirituality in the form of mystical revelation, whereas Yeshaya cajoled and challenged the people to become more spiritual themselves. All right, now in Pasuk 27, is a classic line that is very familiar to a lot of people. There's a lot of Maimarim, a lot of Chassidus, and a lot of ink spilled on this pasuk. That the city of Tzion will be redeemed through the observance of law, and those who return there will come due to their acts of righteousness. So the last verses of the Haftarah describe two phases of restoration. First, in the Psukim 25 to 26, we read about the correction, the transformation of evil. I will smelt your impurities as if cleaning them with soap, and I will remove all your impurities of tin. I will restore your judges to be righteous as they were at first, and your advisors as they were in the beginning. And then in Pasuk 27, it concludes by stressing the observance of good deeds alone, the observance of law and acts of righteousness. The message here appears to be the pure good, as said about in Pasuk 27, the spiritual progression from, and thus superior to, the transformation of evil into good that was talked about in the previous Psukim in Chaf Hey and Chaf Vav. A conclusion would seem to fly in the face of the traditional understanding that the Baal Tshuva, the penitent, is greater than the tzaddik, a naturally righteous person. And are we not taught that there is a superiority to light which comes from a setting of spiritual darkness, as is seen in Koheles? In truth, however, there's a development of spiritual intensity here. Initially, there is a spiritual quality to light which comes from a setting of darkness. But once that light has learned and acquired its advantage from the darkness, it can then progress on its own to unprecedented levels of pure holiness, light, that vastly transcend the spiritual illumination of tshuva and correction. In other words, becoming a Baal Tshuva is not the highest level of spiritual achievement in itself. Rather, it is a springboard to become an even greater tzaddik that would have been possible without the tshuva process. Sicha Shabbos Parshas Devarim 57:48. Okay, so now we're going to jump in just for the last couple of minutes a little bit of direction about what's coming up this week in halacha. It's going to start the 9 days. I was asked a question just today. Somebody asked me, so they remember they're not allowed to eat meat during the 9 days, but when does that start? So first of all, that actually starts on Rosh Chodesh. Even though Rosh Chodesh is a special day, it's a Midi Yom Tov, but we do not eat meat starting on Rosh Chodesh. There are exceptions, special occasions who do allow you to eat meat. Many people have the custom to make a siyum on a Gemara, a completion of learning a whole Masechta Gemara, Mishnayos, they'll do it, or a bris, or a pidyon haben. One of my nephews is having one of those. The 30 days after a firstborn is born, the redemption from the tribe of Kohanim. So, but anyway, so there are very specific rules about that. You can ask your local rabbi. We're just going to run through a couple things.
You said pidyon haben in 30 days. Well, you're going so fast.
Yeah, I'm trying to squeeze a lot of information into a short amount of time. Pidyon haben, I translated. I explained what a pidyon haben is in very short, succinct terms, which is that it is 30 days after a baby is born, the first baby boy.
Right.
He is the Bechor, as is otherwise known. He is redeemed from the tribe of the Kohanim.
So a pidyon haben is 30 days after the birth, right?
Correct.
I forgot.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. So that is one of those special occasions which one can eat meat if they are in attendance of such an occasion.
And by the way, being I'm a Kohen, I think don't you have to be a Kohen to be able to perform the pidyon haben?
So the one who does the redemption, right? Who takes the coins and redeems the baby is a Kohen, right?
I should learn how to do that because I'm a Kohen. It could be extra income.
It's pretty. There's not really much to learn how to do. It's really just a transference. I mean, it's written about online. You can find it all online, chabad.org, or in the Siddur, in the newer Siddurim. I think they have a page where it talks about it, and it's a pretty easy thing to do. It's just a matter of being available when it happens.
Who's doing it for everybody in the community?
That's what I'm saying. There's no designated Kohen who does it. It's really just up to the parents to pick a Kohen. It could be any Kohen. It could be anybody. It could be a 13-year-old Kohen. It could be. So it's just a matter. Usually, it's a friend or maybe the rabbi if he's a Kohen.
Right.
Happens to be Rabbi Rosenfeld is a Kohen. So I'm sure he's done at least a few.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But, it's just a matter of who they want to invite. We had it. My nephew, I had a different nephew at a pidyon haben. It was just a couple of friends in my friends in a mutual friend's apartment. We had a nice meal, but we invited a friend of ours. He was a single bacher, and he came over and he did it. It was, I think, his first time doing it. But you have to have silver coins. So there are kohanim who make sure that they have some silver coins so they can do a pidyon haben.
Right.
But silver dollars.
Wonder what the fee is that they make when they do it.
You can look it up online. I'm sure you can find chabad.org. We'll talk about it.
All right. Well, help me find it.
So but this is in a class about pidyon haben. This is class on this week's Parsha. So this week, we're moving forward. So that just quickly mentioning pidyon haben. We still got a lot to cover. So quickly, Rosh Chodesh starts this Tuesday night. So on Erev Rosh Chodesh, first of all, it's a custom. It's called like Yom Kippur Katan every Erev Rosh Chodesh. Leading into Rosh Chodesh is a very special time, and it's very important to give extra tzedakah and increase in davening and learning on said time. Now, with regards to Erev Rosh Chodesh Menachem Av specifically, the Rebbe wants directed to add in Torah study, davening, and giving tzedakah because it's an especially sensitive time, given the value of and how much tzedakah would be to give the value of 2 meals to tzedakah, and even better to give the value of 3 meals. If you did not do this all day, you can make up for it afterwards. To say the shiur tehillim of both the 29th and 30th days of the month, because there isn't 30 days this month. It's just 29 days, so you got to say both tehillims. And at Mincha, we don't say Tachanun because it's Erev Rosh Chodesh, Tuesday afternoon, that is. And we say Yalav Yavo during Yalav Yavo on Ma'ariv Tuesday night. So now Rosh Chodesh starts here. There's lots of things we can say about Rosh Chodesh, but I think I want to jump into the 9 days because that's what's more unique. But if anyone ever wants to know about the laws of Rosh Chodesh, they can look it up online. Chabad.org, of course, is a great thing, as a resource for that. Anyway, so the 9 days. Tuesday is the first of the 9 days that start from Rosh Chodesh Menachem Av until Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av. During the 9 days, we refrain from buying new clothes or shoes, even if they're not going to be worn until after Tisha B'Av. Just buying them, we don't do. Again, there are exceptions to a lot of these things, but for the specifics, you got to ask a rabbi. Right now, we don't have time for that in this class, but just to run through these things right now.
Why are you rushing so fast tonight?
I do have a time limit. Like most of my time, it is limited. There's
focus. No, I'm saying, is there a certain amount of information that you want to cover tonight? Is that what it is?
I'd like to get through just the basics of So I want to get through the basics of the 9 days, and then we'll have time.
Okay. All right.
Like anything, when I'm finished getting through what I want to cover, then I can slow down. And if we have extra time, we can discuss and
Okay.
questions and other comments. But
I just
want to get through.
just wonder why you're stepping on the gas. That's all.
Yep. Okay, so the 9 days, we don't buy new shoes or clothes, even if they're going to be worn after Tisha B'Av. Just don't buy them even during the 9 days. Washing clothing, again, even if they're not going to be worn until after Tisha B'Av, shouldn't be washing them. Children's clothing that gets soiled often may be washed. Wearing newly washed clothing, so even if you washed it before the 9 days, but is wearing a freshly laundered garment, not supposed to do that during the 9 days. So therefore, before the 9 days begin, there's a lot of people who go through their closet and try everything on, which is a nice thing to do once a year anyway, to make sure you fit all your clothes. But that way you've worn everything. If you're unable to do so, you could drop it on the floor for a short time before wearing it. You don't have to step on it. I remember as kids, we used to throw everything on the floor and step all over it. I don't
There's
think
always a
that's
hefter somewhere.
but you could drop it on the floor. So that way it's just not a freshly laundered item. But again, only do that if needed. If you have something else that's previously worn.
Right.
And underwear does not count for that.
Buddy.
Underwear does not count. We're talking about outer clothes. Showering for pleasure. You're allowed to take a shower out of necessity, but just to relax in a shower, not allowed unless you speak to a rabbi and he says you're allowed to. As the next thing, you can shower for health reasons, for a mitzvah, for example, or if you're uncomfortable due to heat or sweat, so it leads to health. But just that'll be a nice thing. Let me take a nice bubble bath just to relax. Yeah, not necessarily so okay. If you go to mikveh every day, you may do so during the 9 days as well. Except for Tisha B'Av itself, we don't shower even for any reason or go to mikveh. Except for maybe if there's a mohel or a father, if there's a bris, those people might go to mikveh even on Tisha.
Right.
Okay, my phone's dying, so I guess that's it for now. All right, have a good night, everybody.
That's it. Wow, when's the next?
There's more, but yeah, it's shutting.
Isn't there another class tonight from the Babbage Center with Solomon Malamed? Oh shit. Okay, I guess we're done.